You did warn about the tax on banks, which is up for discussion in the UK. What would happen if they do put more of the onus on you? I mean, they have a tough fiscal situation.
Yeah, they absolutely have a difficult fiscal situation, and they've got to make choices about taxation and spending. I'm very confident that this government will make the right choices to foster growth, which is what that economy needs. Now, one part to that, in tempting, it's, if I can use big words, it's a facile and fallacious logic, is to say take the banking sector, which is already paying a tax rate of 48%, higher than almost any other banking sector. You know, New York is like 26%, and even the highest in Europe is like 39%. So adding to that is not a path towards economic growth, and it affects a sector which is 10% of the UK economy, a big source of export earnings, like Barclays bringing back money into the UK, and an important part of London being the, you know,
why you would have to pull back on hiring?
We would have to find ways to get greater productivity, pull back on hiring, and actually issue less credit into the UK economy, right? Because we wouldn't have as much capital to reinvest back into the system.
So what do you think is the solution? Because we have seen bonds sell off, yields higher. We've seen actually some multi-year highs when it comes to UK gilt yields. What do you think is driving that, and how do they deal with it?
So I think the gilt yield is a separate issue. I think it's largely technical. It has been moving in sympathy with global bond yields. It's had a higher beta, and it's had a higher beta than, say, US Treasuries, because in part it's a large liquid market and the UK is a slightly weaker fiscal situation, easier to attack. But on the other hand, the maturity profile in the UK is extremely long. It's 15 years on average versus 7 years for the US. So they can reduce long-term maturities. On growth, I think there's obviously got to be a combination of taxation and spending, but that spending has to be investment. Investment in housing, investment in infrastructure, investment in long-term productivity. And productivity is what's been declining in the UK. And the real focus of this government, and they have they understand it. It's front and center in their minds.
It is? Is this a pro-business government?
It is absolutely pro-business. I have felt it since the day they walked in.
And you still see that? I mean, they've done things. They've raised minimum wages, talked about taxes, higher taxes for business.
Well, it is a democracy, right? And so there are constituents who've elected them, who expect certain things in social services and wages, and that's absolutely right. But is it pro-business in the policies in which they enact and the way they deal with business? And for instance, what they've said about the centrality of the financial sector to the UK, absolutely it is for pro-business. I've felt it from day one. I feel it today.
What about the trade deal that has been negotiated between the UK and the US? What do you think the ramifications are going to be of that?
I think the most important thing was that they removed uncertainty. The UK and the US moved quickly. They struck a deal which is fair, and President Trump is there next week. And I think it's important because this relationship is so close, not just in the financial industry, but across so many sectors, including technology, pharma, and so on, that I think it was important to strike that deal, and I think it was good for both countries.
Okay. Well, Venkat, thank you again for having us, and thanks for shedding light on some of the areas you're focused on in the business and around the world.
Thank you, Sarah. It's always a great pleasure.